Hello and welcome into another episode of Rolling with My Special Friends. Today we've got a young lady coming to us all the way from New York. She is the founder of the Motion Project as well as the Natalie Barnhard Center for Spinal Cord Injury Rehabilitation. So we want to get her in here and tell her story and be able to get you guys that are out there listening, if you've got a friend or a family member, somebody with a newly injured person or even maybe had injuries before and is looking for a place to really get involved with and get that rehabilitation that you need. This is the place to go. And also we want to hear her story because she's come through so much to be the founder of this organization. And we want people to know what she's out there doing some great things. So Natalie, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you very much for having me.
You are quite welcome. Now, you know, like we love to do on our podcast, we just jump in with both feet to get the story. So kind of tell people, you know, start us off how your injury came about. How did you get a spinal cord injury?
Yeah, so I was 24 years old and I was actually working as a physical therapist assistant. I recently had gotten my massage license as well. I loved working with people. I was working in outpatient orthopedics and just kind of a freak injury. A 600-pound exercise machine tipped over on top of me. And I fell back into like a counter that we would do our notes on. And it shattered C5 and C6 vertebrae, causing paralysis. I knew right away that I was paralyzed. You know, I couldn't feel the weight of my body on the ground. And I think just from my background as a therapist, I just knew how severe it was and how bad it was. And it's terrifying, you know. It was not something you ever expect to go through. And the craziest thing about it is 2 years prior, when I was a student, my last clinical in school was working in outpatient neuro with people with spinal cord injuries. So then 2 years later, I'm a patient at the very same place I was a student. It was a little bizarre.
Nate, are you a believer that everything happens for a reason?
I am, as cliche as that statement is. It has been shown to be very, very true in my life. Absolutely.
So now to get people a little bit more into the chair, tell people what is a day in the life of you like? You know, do you have some assistants to be able to help you eat and live at home, or are you married, or tell everybody a little bit about your life?
Yeah, so for years I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I went to the Shepherd Center because I wanted specialized rehab. And that was just not something I could find here in Buffalo. So I actually lived down there for close to a decade. I had full-time caregivers so that I could be on my own. You know, my family was up here in Buffalo. My dad would come down and stay with me for lengths of time, just so I wasn't, you know, alone. But eventually I decided to move back to Buffalo because I wanted to pursue some other dreams and goals. But, you know, even living in Buffalo, when I moved home, I had to have 24-hour care. I need help with getting up, dressing, showering. You know, I can eat now, I can do my makeup, I can type. You know, I've got some wrist control, but I use a brace for most of the things that I need to stabilize my wrist. I try to be as independent as I can, and having full-time care for a long time was the way to do it. As hard as that is, you know, there's a lot that goes into caregiving and the challenges of the dynamics, but it allowed me to be free of, like, I guess, my parents, you know, and truly independent living my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Now fast forward, now I'm in a relationship and engaged to be married. So my fiance actually does most of my care, which is something I never, ever thought would happen. Years ago, I remember telling my mom, I could never have, you know, a man do any of the personal care for me. I always expected it to be very separate, but I also never expected to meet this type of man. Right. And, you know, it just, with him doing everything, it actually feels like I'm living a more normal life. It doesn't feel like an outsider coming in to do my care. It's just very different. We have our little routine and it works. I love it.
So in the sense, you would qualify him as the soulmate then, right?
Oh yeah, he is my soulmate. It took me, 39 and a half years to finally meet him, but he was worth the wait. Dating is not easy after an injury, and you tend to think who is going to want you in this situation, and your self-esteem goes down. I was in a relationship at the time of my injury that it didn't work. 8 months into it, he just couldn't do it. And he said, it's just too hard. And he bailed, and, we were in love. I thought that he was the one, and I was pretty shattered and heartbroken. And then when I did try to date, I think I lowered my standards a bit in the beginning, because I felt like if somebody's okay with the chair, I need to give them a chance.
Right.
It's probably not the best way to go about it. It took a lot of healing of myself to love myself again and to value myself as a woman, even though I am in a chair and I have a disability, to really understand that I still have a lot to offer and my own self-worth. And it was then that I finally met the right person.
Right.
I think it was until I truly accepted my injury, which honestly was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. To say that I took over a decade to fully accept my injury sounds like an insanely long period of time. But I think part of that was because I was always in rehab, and I was always focused on more function, more and more and more. How much more can I get? And I was always in this mindset of just my physical recovery. I needed to take a step back from all of that and really live life and allow myself to be okay with just the way I am. Maybe I'm never going to get to fully functioning, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm not recovered. Recovery to me means you're living your life. You're not stuck in your injury. And there's a freedom that comes with that.
Yeah, I truly love that piece about what you just said. Is a lot of people, they are striving out there to get better and to move forward and do those things, and that's great. I always recommend people keep striving and try to get better, but there's also a quality of life somewhere in the middle of that you got to live life. Don't just let it all pass you while you're out there trying to get better.
Yeah, because that's another tragedy, right? If you spend the rest of your life only focused on getting better and you're not actually living, that's like a tragedy within a tragedy, And I think it took me years to really understand that fact, that I can still exercise and work on my function and my health and wellness. And I think that is absolutely essential for somebody, but you have to be out there living, going and doing the things that you love. Otherwise, you're letting the injury overcome you.
That's correct.
Instead of being who you are.
So walk us into a little bit. You brought up the dating and the relationship and everything that you're in right now. Tell us walk us through a typical date. Where would you guys go, and what are chairs, what are chairs getting into? You going into restaurants, movie theaters, any of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, we go everywhere. He has a Jeep and bought a harness system so I can ride in the Jeep without the doors on. So he puts a 5-point harness system on so I don't fall out the door, which is something my mother appreciates. But yeah, we go out. We go to concerts all the time. We travel. We go to movies. We did adaptive kayaking. We're looking to get bikes. We would like to do more traveling. But he's the type of man that is willing to figure it out with me. If there's something we want to do, let's figure out what we have to do to get it done and how we can do that. And I love that about him. It's really interesting because he grew up, his father had muscular dystrophy. So he's been around somebody with a disability his whole life. And then he had his own injury 10 years ago, Luckily, he wasn't paralyzed, but he was very close to being paralyzed or dead, and he fell 60 feet from a tree. But now I think we just have that understanding of what we go through and chronic pain. We just are very similar people, and he sees me for me. That's the biggest thing, not the disability. He sees the woman, not the chair. And I've had relationships where I've tried to date, and it almost seemed like they were more worried about the chair and what comes with all of that, instead of just trying to get to know you as a person.
Yeah, now that's the other, piece of this puzzle that I see a lot of times, especially a girl gets treated unfairly because they see the chair. They don't see your regular everyday things that you want to go do just like every other girl.
Yeah. And, women, our sexuality is important. You want to feel beautiful. You want to feel sexy. You want to feel attractive. And sometimes you don't feel that way in a wheelchair. So, and you don't know if men are going to look at you the same way. As I healed, I'm like, well, if a man's not okay with it, well, he's not the right man for me. And that was so true. The right man, he sees me. And it's so different. It's so different to actually have somebody in love with you. My first relationship years ago before my injury, I don't think that was actual love, because if this injury caused him to leave, that's not real love. It's not.
Right. Right. And look at it from both sides. Sometimes it's not as anybody's fault is. Some of those people are not mentally equipped to be able to handle an injury like that, and they walk away from it because they're just not mentally strong.
And in hindsight, you'd almost rather that and then leave than them stay with you because they feel bad. Because then what? They would probably resent you, or you wouldn't have a really great, healthy relationship.
Right.
So, I'm grateful of his honesty. It was hard to go through the heartbreak of it, but, it freed me to find who was truly meant for me out there in the world.
Right. Well, and that's the part I love too, because you have brought this whole thing full circle from a tragedy of your injury into finding the right person. And now here we are, have jumped into this whole center that you've started to help other people and bring them through what you've come through yourself and seen both sides of it. Not only do you live with the injury, but you've also done years and years of rehab. So you know what that looks like and how it happens. So tell us, let's open that can up just a little bit and tell us about the Motion Project. What actually is that?
Yeah, so Motion Project started actually when I was in Atlanta, and I was just struggling to get things paid for by insurance. And I was hearing so many other stories of the same thing, where people were getting denied things like shower chairs, people saying, oh, insurance denied it because they said it was a luxury item. I'm like, how is a shower chair a luxury item? You need that. So it was hearing these stories of, what people were dealing with, as well as myself, and wanting to help the immediate need for somebody. So I started this foundation so we could give grants, and we call them quality of life grants, for anything from home or vehicle modifications to rehabilitation services, equipment. The number one thing we would get requests for was rehab. People wanted to get better and they wanted more therapy. And, early in my injury, I was pretty shattered that I felt like I went through all this schooling as a therapist just to have it taken away. And I didn't understand that. And I shared that with my mom, and, we have a strong faith in God. And she's like, I don't think God works that way, and she encouraged me to pray for what God has for me now. And I did. I just prayed that he would help me to love something else, because the loss of the use of my hands, when I felt like I healed people with my hands, was so, so difficult for me. And I felt like I had a gift that was just taken. And I did a lot of prayer, and I felt like God gave me this inner desire and passion to start a recovery center. which is crazy because I don't know the first thing about starting a recovery center. So I'm like, I'm supposed to do what? How? And for years, I would share this at foundation events. Someday we're going to start a center. Someday we're going to start a center. And I think it took me a long time to get the center going because number one, I had to continue my own recovery. And I had to get up to a point in my therapy where I was mentally just ready to go. And for a long time, I was terrified to just take that first step to start a recovery center because it's something so much bigger than myself and something bigger than I ever thought I was really capable of doing. But all the therapy that I had done, I was like, I need to bring this to Western New York. Not only the therapy, but the resources, the education, in the community. When I moved back, I felt so alone. There was no community of people here supporting each other. And that was something I found to be one of the most healing things when I was down in Atlanta, Georgia. So fast forward now to, 2018, 2019, and I just decided I was ready. I'll say I moved back in 2015. And the few years I moved back where I stopped exercising because there was nothing here. I had no community because there was nothing here. So I didn't really have a support system of people in the SCI disability world. Yes, I had family and friends, but you know what I'm talking about, that spinal cord disabled community of support.
Yep.
I got more depressed. I got pneumonia twice where I almost passed away. I was losing function. And all of that was just because it came to an abrupt stop. Everything that I had been receiving in Atlanta. So eventually I got to the point, I'm like, it's now or never. I have to take that first step in creating this for people because I'm seeing what I'm dealing with. I know there's so many people out there that are dealing with the same thing. And a lot of these people maybe have not even had the chance to go to a specialized recovery center. So we need these services here. So I started, and then a global pandemic broke out. I was like, oh, just my luck. I started a business entity that is a huge endeavor for me. And then we have a global pandemic. But everything stopped for a little while and then we picked right back up. And, I think God has just truly been there every step of the way in my journey to put all the people, all the experiences that I've had in just the right place at the right time for the right things. And it really has all come together. So now we have this beautiful 6,000 square foot state-of-the-art center with all kinds of adaptive equipment, robotics. We have 2 full-time recovery specialists. So people can come and work on their recovery, but they can also work on their just general health and wellness. Because as you know, we can't just go to a general able-bodied gym. Nothing's set up for us. So where does somebody with a disability just get exercise? Just health and wellness to prevent all the secondary complications that come with an injury.
Right.
Even complications, I don't want to say complications, but health concerns as we age. Society tells people to go and work out so it can prevent heart disease and diabetes and all these things we worry about as we age. But what about the person in the chair? Where do they go? So that's been a big frustration of mine and a driving force to get something started. I want people to know that they can truly live their best life despite what's happened to them. So now we're working on a program called CARES, which stands for Community Advocacy, Resources, Education, and Support. So it's all the other things that we want to provide for people. We want to build this community environment, provide resources to people from the point of injury, So we can just be that family that supports people the entire way through. We also collaborated with an organization called Greater Buffalo Adaptive Sports, so we can get people into sports and events. We actually have one of 11 NFL wheelchair football teams. So we officially have the Buffalo Bills wheelchair football team.
Wow.
And it's incredible to watch these guys. Their first home game this year is coming up in October, and we can't wait. We can't wait to go see it. I got a bunch of girls going, and we're going to be the cheerleaders.
Well, isn't that something special? Now, that's pretty neat. So tell us, on the Motion Project and what you got going on, how, for people that are out here listening, is there a website? Is there a way to get connected? How do I get to it?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's motionprojectny.org, and that you can get all kinds of information about us. And we also are on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, which is Motion Project NY on Instagram, Motion Project Foundation on Facebook or YouTube. And we're working on a TikTok. I'm a little slow on getting on TikTok. I think that's just my age speaking. But yeah, we're working on getting on TikTok as well. And let's see what else. We also have a chapter of United Spinal Association that I founded. So people can get all kinds of resources with that. We're doing our first community open house this month during Spinal Cord Awareness Month, where we're really working to get people out of the community and coming for just a fun cookout, let them get to meet each other, socialize, and see some of the services that we provide. There's so much yet to come, which is exciting. I just want to burst sometimes because I just see this huge picture of growing to really make such a huge change, not only for Western New York, but all the surrounding areas. And we have a collaboration with the University of Buffalo. So we've already had internships with students. We've had tours with doctors and students, because this type of center is so beneficial for not just the client coming, but the community as a whole, to learn more about people with disabilities. And we can have more specialists and doctors to know how to treat our injury. That's something that a lot of people struggle with, is finding the right doctor to help with their needs. And not many doctors have experience with it.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. I know a lot of doctors think they've been through that before, but a lot of the doctors now that are trying to treat people with spinal cord injuries had their education 20 and 30 years ago. And there's a lot of new things out there that could bring them up to date with exercise, rehabilitation, other things like what you're talking about. It's just amazing to me to hear your story and the things you're providing for people that truly need it. And there's not a resource out there. There's not one of these projects on every corner where they could go to a regular rehab or a regular gymnasium and lift weights. They need this out there. And I'm so thankful that there are people like you out there providing that service.
Well, thank you. It's something most people struggle with. It's like, insurance will provide your outpatient PT, OT, but they cut you off way before we're even close to being ready. So what are you supposed to do at that point? Give up, go home, say that's it? There's so much more to life. And we want to fill that gap where people still can feel like there's hope and other people out there that understand, in a way that we can say, yeah, you know what? You may live the rest of your life in a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean you're not going to recover, and you're not going to heal, and you're not going to be able to go to work and school and participate in activities. We all can do it.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought I'd be where I'm at. And my life has dramatically changed in the 17 years I've been in here.
Oh, there's no doubt from knowing your story of from the past and also of the current of what the things you're doing. Your story is great to be able to inspire a bunch of people out there. And saying that, I want you also to tell us something to get back into your life a little bit. Tell us something that people may not know, a funny story about you.
I'll share a funny story about when I tried to date, because I was trying to date a young man and he was a paraplegic. And, you know, it's kind of funny, when I was first injured, everybody wanted to hook me up with somebody else in a wheelchair, like family members and friends. And it's like, well, it might not be the easiest. Not saying it couldn't work out, but anyways, we were trying to get on a couch to watch a movie. And we were like, okay, well, he's a para and I'm a quad. How is he going to get me onto the couch? So we were facing each other. We had our wheelchairs facing each other. I locked mine. We had the idea that I would lean forward. He would grab under my hips and try to like push, like twist my pelvis onto the couch. Maybe it would have worked if his wheelchair had been locked. So when I leaned forward, he fell backwards. I flew forwards. He fell on the ground. I fell on top of him. Now we're two paralyzed people completely on the ground. Nobody's there to get us. We just started laughing for about 5 minutes until reality hit us like, crap, how are we going to get up? So it was about 30 to 45 minutes of two paralyzed people trying to unmingle their legs and him prop me up before he could pull his legs out from under me and get in a wheelchair. He finally was able to get his chair and get himself up and had to call his neighbor. 14-year-old young man had to come pick me up off the floor. So it was definitely, if you could have been a fly on the wall for that, would have been
well, that's just
quite entertaining.
That's just one of those moments you got to laugh at yourself. You know, it was fun. You had the right intentions. It was just that all didn't work out.
My mother was like, Natalie, like, really? Like, what are you thinking? I'm like, you know, we tried. Hey, give us credit for trying. And that's, you live. I have a broken knee right now, but it's because I was out on a boat having a good time. Yes, accidents may happen, but people joke, they're like, for somebody in a chair, you get hurt sometimes. And it's like, well, you know what? It's because I'm out living my life. And I'm not just home sitting doing nothing. I'd rather have an injury with a broken leg right now, but know I did it doing something fun, than be sitting home and going through all kinds of other issues because, you know, I'm feeling depressed and my muscles are atrophying anyways, and I'm getting weaker, and there's so much more to life.
No, I agree 1,000%. Now, one of our signature series question here on the podcast is, if something were happen to you tomorrow and everything was to be over with, and your great fiance there or someone wrote a book about you, what would you hope people read about your life in that book?
You know, I love this question. It's pretty deep, because you can look at your life and try to sum all of it up and all of your achievements. I think the biggest thing is to know that I'm just truly one selfless woman that's trying to make a difference in the world based on personal struggles that I've been through. You know, I just want to make other people's lives a little bit easier. If what I've been through can do that, it's all worth it to me. And I'd go through it all again to know that I'm enhancing another person's life in a profound way.
Wow. Now that's pretty special to have that testimony to be able to tell to other people. And it's very clear and obvious, you know, the things that you've come through and the things that you're doing now. You're living up to what you just said. You're showing people, you know, there is a way out there to continue forward, and there is a way to get, you know, what you need if you just get out there and look for it. So to kind of sum this up again, make sure to tell everybody that's listening, how do we get in touch with the Motion Project?
Yeah, so Motion Project, you can get in touch with us on our website at Motion. It's www.motionprojectny.org, or on Instagram at Motion Project NY, or Facebook, Motion Project Foundation. So even if you just Google Motion Project Foundation, We will be there. I would love for people to reach out and get in touch and we can help provide all kinds of support for them in so many ways.
And that's the other thing I was going to follow that up with is in the support, you guys are obviously offering grants like you said, but you're also covered by a lot of insurances as well?
Insurance really doesn't cover this. So our foundation does give a supplemental grant to the folks that come to our therapy program. So depending on the amount of time people come, we give anywhere from 10 to 30% off a discount of the price of therapy. So it is a way that we do help. We also do provide quality of life grants as well. And, we encourage people in so many different ways of how they can raise money. And we try our best to support people because my goal is I don't want to ever turn somebody away. My big goal is to create an endowment so we can have a rehab fund and we never have to turn anybody away if they can't pay.
Gotcha. Well, I thank you for coming on today, and I really appreciate everything you're out there doing, making changes in the world and changing people's lives. So I don't know what else to say. I mean, you're just such an amazing person with an amazing story, and I just thank you for coming on and telling it to us today.
No, thank you so much for allowing me to and to share it. It's just about life. There's so many ups and downs that we all face, and, we all have our purpose in life. And, my faith in God really helped drive my passion in my direction. And I know that can do that for other people as well. And, and they can get past and through anything that they're going through. So thank you. Honestly, Jim, this is amazing to share.
Well, again, thank you. And everybody out there listening, go out there and check out their Motion Project. As always, like and subscribe our videos and be able to get ready for the next one that's coming out, for the next cool story that's out there. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.